The 7 levels of mutant classification explained. Level 1, Epsilon, Beak. Barnell Bohusk, better known as Beak, looked like the kind of mutant even the X-Men didn't know what to do with. His mutation wasn't flashy. No laser beams, no claws, no wings strong enough to soar through the sky. Instead, he had a scrawny bird body, hollow bones, and a beak for a mouth. Not exactly a headliner at Xavier's school. When Grant Morrison introduced him in New X-Men in 2001, he was immediately the odd one out. Students laughed at him, villains didn't take him seriously, and even his teachers struggled to figure out his role. But Beak surprised everyone when he found love with Angel Salvador, a fellow outsider. Together they had kids, a whole brood of them, and suddenly this background student was living one of the most grounded family arcs in X-Men comics. Later on, Beak even got moments of bravery, standing up against Magneto's revolution despite knowing he couldn't throw a punch like Wolverine or Cyclops. His powers may have been underwhelming, but his heart gave him staying power. He proves that sometimes being classified at the bottom might be about representing the mutants who look more human in their struggles than superhuman in their powers. Artie Maddox, he didn't blast fire, bend steel, or shake the ground. His gift was different. He could project thought images into the air, almost like psychic holograms. And since he was mute, those images became his entire voice. When he wanted to say something, he drew it in midair with his mind. In X-Factor comics, this made him invaluable as a communicator, especially for exposing lies or sharing visions no one else could see. But in battle, he wasn't a fighter. He wasn't leading charges against Sentinels or throwing punches alongside Colossus. Instead, he found his place as a kid's sidekick, often paired with Leech. The two became a kind of mascot duo, vulnerable, innocent, but carrying the emotional weight of what it meant to grow up mutant. He projections could even replay memories or reveal inner thoughts, which sometimes made him scarier than heroes with more traditional firepower. He didn't change the outcome of wars, but he shaped the stories in small, unforgettable ways. Leech. He was the exact opposite of a powerhouse. If anything, he was a walking power-off switch. Born a Morlock and raised in the underground tunnels beneath New York, his ability nullified the mutant powers of anyone near him. Cyclops would lose his optic blasts. Storm couldn't summon lightning. Wolverine's healing factor shut down. At first, this seemed like a curse. Even allies avoided him, afraid of what they'd lose if he came too close. But Leech's gift turned out to be essential during high-stakes arcs. In Mutant Massacre, his presence saved lives by neutralizing threats before they could spiral out of control. Later, in X-Factor, he became a kind of secret weapon for keeping volatile mutants in check. Of course, the downside was obvious. Strip away someone's powers, and you're left with a child who can't defend himself. That made Leech both vital and deeply vulnerable. He's been kidnapped more times than most characters in X history because villains realized he was the key to leveling the playing field. For all the ridicule Epsilon-class mutants get, he embodied a paradox. Powerless on his own, but capable of turning the strongest fighter into just another human. Level 2, Delta, Forge. If mutants had a tech guy archetype, Forge is the original. A decorated Vietnam veteran and Cheyenne shaman, his mutation made him a natural inventor, literally. His brain just works differently. When he looks at a pile of parts, he sees blueprints no one else can. Over the years, he built everything from bionic limbs to time machines, but the weapon that defined him most was the mutant power neutralizer, designed for the government during one of his lowest points. That device ended up stripping Storm of her powers for years, a decision that haunted him and reshaped their relationship. His brilliance makes him indispensable, but it also isolates him. He's often written as the man alone in his workshop, surrounded by machines no one else understands. The irony is that his own mutant gift, the thing that elevates him above Delta in terms of brains, keeps him boxed into this category because he doesn't have the raw destructive ability of the higher tiers. He's a builder, not a battlefield juggernaut, and in mutant classification, that matters. Domino. She is the kind of mutant whose power looks boring on paper but becomes terrifying in practice. Her body unconsciously bends probability in her favor, making near-impossible shots land and catastrophic accidents happen to her enemies. That's why she's so comfortable charging into chaos with a smirk and a handful of guns. Her career in X-Force is filled with no-way moments, like surviving traps, dodging impossible attacks, or pulling off shots that defy math. But here's the kicker. The power only works when she's active. It's not luck if she's sitting on a couch, it's luck when she's charging through a firefight. Combine that with years of mercenary training, and you get a mutant who feels untouchable in combat. Fans got to see how cinematic this really is in Deadpool 2, where Domino casually strolled through a deadly convoy crash like it was a Sunday walk. The secret is that her luck field doesn't guarantee perfection, it just tilts the odds hard enough that she comes out on top. She's Delta because the scale of her influence stops at the battlefield around her. She can flip a fight, but she's not rewriting the weather or toppling cities. Shadowcat. Kitty Pryde joined the X-Men as a teenager, barely older than Jubilee would later be in the 90s cartoon era. At first, her power looked simple, phasing through walls, handy for sneaking around, but not exactly headline material. The more she grew, the more terrifying that ability became. Phasing through electronics can fry them instantly. Phasing into a villain's chest can disrupt their heart, and phasing a whole team through solid matter makes her one of the best infiltration experts in Marvel history. Over time, she graduated from the kid sister of the team to a commander in her own right. In the Marauders era, she captained her own ship, leading rescue missions and even experimenting with new applications of her powers. One of her most famous stories is Days of Future Past, where her mind traveled back in time to warn the X-Men, cementing her as the emotional center of the team. Still, despite her growth, she remains classified as Delta because her power depends on creative application rather than raw scope. She's lethal if you underestimate her, but she doesn't bend the environment on a global scale like the Alphas and Omegas above her. Level 3. Gamma, Nightcrawler. Kurt Wagner has been many things: circus acrobat, priest, pirate, X-Man, but at the heart of it all is one of the most versatile power sets in the Gamma class. His teleportation works by slipping through another dimension, vanishing with that signature Bamf cloud of brimstone and sulfur. It's not just a party trick. Nightcrawler can move an entire team through walls, dodge a sentinel blast mid-flight, or reappear behind an enemy with his tail already wrapped around their weapon. The limits are clear. Line of sight matters, and too much strain risks serious injury or even teleporting into solid objects, but Kurt has honed his ability to the point where he can bounce rapidly in combat, hitting multiple points before an opponent can react. His agility and swashbuckling flair make the power look effortless. Beyond the battlefield, his deep Catholic faith, his role as a moral compass, and his leadership in books like Excalibur give him weight that goes far beyond teleportation. He's a Gamma mutant because his ceiling is tactical, not planetary, but within that lane, he's one of the most beloved and effective X-Men ever created. Rogue Anna Marie's mutation is dangerous by design. One touch, and she steals your energy, your memories, even your mutant gifts. Early in her career, that power defined her as a tragic figure, a teenager who couldn't touch another human being without risking their life. Her story shifted dramatically when she permanently absorbed Carol Danvers' powers, gaining super strength, invulnerability, and flight on top of her absorption ability. For years, that made Rogue one of the heaviest hitters on the team, rivaling Colossus or Thor in raw muscle. The darker side never went away, though. Holding onto Carol's powers came with Carol's memories, creating a fractured sense of self that haunted Rogue through the 80s and 90s. Over time, she gained greater control, able to touch others for brief moments without draining them completely, but the psychological impact of her powers remained one of the deepest arcs in mutant history. Whether she's leading a team of X-Men or fighting alongside the Avengers, he stands as a Gamma because she straddles two worlds, devastatingly powerful, but still limited by the dangerous intimacy of her gift. Jubilee. Introduced at the tail end of the 80s, Jubilation Lee became the face of a new generation of X-Men thanks to one iconic ability, shooting colorful plasma bursts that looked like fireworks. At first, she was comic relief, the mall rat teen tagging along with Wolverine and Uncanny X-Men, and becoming the breakout star of the 1992 animated series. For many fans, she was the entry point into the X-Men mythos. Her powers started small, more distracting than destructive, but over time writers leaned into their potential. Those fireworks could become concussive blasts, strong enough to knock down sentinels or destroy structures. Then came the wild swings. She lost her powers on M-Day, became a vampire during the Curse of the Mutant storyline, and eventually had her mutant gift restored in recent continuity. Through it all, Jubilee has remained one of the most recognizable mutants in pop culture. Her ceiling is inconsistent. Sometimes she's firing off explosions. Other times, she's sidelined as comic relief, but her role in the franchise is undeniable. Few mutants embody the era they were created in quite like Jubilee, sunglasses, bubblegum, and all. Level 4, Beta, Wolverine. Logan is the poster child for Beta classification. Too resilient to count out, too feral to ignore. His healing factor lets him recover from gunshots, broken bones, even nuclear blasts depending on the era. Layer adamantium across his skeleton and claws, and suddenly he's a walking weapon. What makes Wolverine stand out, though, is how he's been weaponized. The Weapon X program turned him into a government experiment, enhancing his natural mutation with metal and erasing his past in the process. Across decades, Wolverine has fought in nearly every major conflict Marvel could throw him into, from World War II to cosmic wars alongside the Avengers. His combat style blends martial arts, animal ferocity, and sheer stubbornness. The healing factor isn't infinite. He's been pushed to the edge countless times, but Logan always claws his way back. Fans love him not only because he's tough, but because every scar and trauma is part of his character. And thanks to his powers, those scars rarely stick around for long. Angel. Warren Worthington III started out as the golden boy of Xavier's original 5. His mutation looked like a blessing, perfect feathered wings that gave him flight, speed, and endurance in the air. For years, he embodied the archetype of the superheroic angel, even adopting the alias Avenging Angel. That changed when Apocalypse captured him and transformed him into Archangel, replacing his organic wings with razor-sharp metal blades that could slice steel and launch volleys like deadly arrows. The upgrade also came with a darker personality, pulling Warren into Apocalypse's service and creating one of the most iconic, corrupted hero arcs in X-Men history. Later stories showed him bouncing between the two sides of himself, the noble heir turned philanthropist and the grim reaper with metallic wings. In more recent years, he's alternated between the two forms, sometimes balancing both identities. Angel belongs in beta because, while his powers make him one of the most visually striking mutants, his ceiling is tied to aerial combat and transformation. He's devastating in the right conditions, but he's not bending the laws of reality or rewriting history like the heavy hitters above him. Gambit. Remy LeBeau is the definition of style meeting substance. Raised on the streets of New Orleans as part of the Thieves Guild, he grew up with charm, agility, and a knack for getting into trouble. His mutation, the ability to charge objects with kinetic energy until they explode, turned a pack of playing cards into his signature weapon. Toss a few in a fight, and they become deadly projectiles with pinpoint accuracy. His abilities don't stop at cards. He can charge nearly anything, from small objects to, in alternate timelines, massive structures. What keeps him in beta instead of higher tiers is control. Remy rarely taps into the extreme ends of his mutation, preferring finesse over spectacle. Combined with his acrobatics, staff fighting skills, and Cajun swagger, he carved out a role as both a fan favorite and a wild card in X-Men missions. His complicated romance with Rogue, his shady ties to Mr. Sinister, and his mercurial loyalties have kept him central to mutant drama for decades. He's never been the strongest on the battlefield, but his mix of flash and unpredictability makes him unforgettable. Level 5. Alpha. Cyclops. Scott Summers has one of the most recognizable mutant powers in Marvel history. Optic blasts powered by solar energy. They're not lasers, they're concussive force beams, meaning he's basically a living artillery cannon. The catch is control. Because of a childhood accident damaging his brain, Scott can't switch them off on his own. That's why he wears his ruby quartz visor or glasses at all times. Over the years, his mastery of those beams has turned into something almost scientific. He's banked shots off walls at impossible angles, blasted through sentinels like they were paper, and even held back the Phoenix Force with raw precision. But Cyclops' true strength is leadership. He's been the field commander of the X-Men for decades, orchestrating battles where every mutant's abilities are maximized. In events like Schism and the Krakoa era, Scott's tactical mind has kept mutants alive against overwhelming odds. He's alpha, not just because of his destructive potential, but because he embodies the strategic backbone of mutant kind. Namor. He was Marvel's first mutant hero, debuting back in 1939, before the concept of mutants even existed. His Atlantean physiology makes him a powerhouse underwater, with strength rivaling the Hulk in certain storylines, near invulnerability, and the to breathe on land and sea. And then there are the wings on his ankles, small but functional enough to grant him flight. He has gone toe-to-toe with the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, and pretty much anyone who crosses him. But what elevates him in mutant classification is more than raw strength. It's politics. As the king of Atlantis, Namor brings armies with him. His decision to ally or oppose mutants can change the balance of power overnight. During events like Avengers vs. X-Men, his unleashing of the Phoenix Force on Wakanda flooded an entire nation. His temper and arrogance are legendary, but so is his ability to dominate both the battlefield and the geopolitical stage. He belongs at Alpha because his influence stretches beyond personal feats. It extends to kingdoms, alliances, and global conflicts. Storm. Ororo Munroe is one of the most iconic mutants ever created. Born with the ability to manipulate weather, she can summon lightning, control wind currents, adjust atmospheric pressure, and even change climates across regions. Her powers scale from the micro, like cooling a room or creating a light breeze, to the macro, where she's triggered continent-spanning storms. Writers and fans often debate whether Storm is truly Alpha or Omega, but the common thread is control. Ororo has a level of precision most weather manipulators can only dream of. She can pick a single raindrop out of a hurricane or summon a lightning bolt with surgical accuracy. Beyond power, Storm is revered as a leader and symbol. She once ruled Wakanda as queen, alongside T'Challa, has commanded the X-Men through their toughest battles, and currently plays a central role in intergalactic politics as part of the X-Men Red storyline on Krakoa and Arakko. Her goddess-like status isn't just for show. In many cultures within the Marvel Universe, she is literally worshipped. She sits at Alpha because she can alter the environment on scales that decide wars, and she does it while carrying herself as one of the most respected figures in all of Marvel lore. Level 6, Omega, Jean Grey. Her power curve is one of the most famous in all of comics. She started out as one of Xavier's first students with telekinesis that let her move objects and telepathy that grew over time. Then came the Phoenix. Bonding with the cosmic force elevated her from an already powerful mutant to a galactic-scale presence. Even without the Phoenix, Jean is recognized as an Omega-level telepath, capable of linking entire populations through mindscapes, erasing or rewriting memories, and fighting psychic battles that play out like wars in the astral plane. Her telekinesis has been refined to the point of simultaneously manipulating dozens of targets with surgical accuracy. The Phoenix Saga cemented her as a symbol of unchecked power and tragedy, and to this day she represents the idea of a mutant whose abilities have no definable ceiling. In Krakoa-era stories, she has balanced her Phoenix legacy while stepping fully into her Omega classification, reaffirming that her mind alone can change the course of history. Magneto. Eric Lensher embodies the phrase, "master of magnetism." His control of electromagnetic forces is planetary-scale manipulation. He's lifted entire submarines, thrown tanks through the air, and an ultimatum even shifted Earth's magnetic poles. His force fields have held back nuclear blasts, and his ability to manipulate electrical currents lets him disable tech with a thought. Beyond the physics feats, he is defined by ideology. A Holocaust survivor, he views mutant struggle through the lens of survival at any cost, which makes him both one of the X-Men's greatest enemies and most vital allies. His classification as Omega is official. There is no known upper boundary to his control of electromagnetic forces. Whether building an asteroid base in space or pulling iron directly out of blood, Magneto demonstrates power on scales that rival entire armies. Even in recent years on Krakoa, his role as a statesman for mutant kind has shown that his influence is as vast as his powers. Iceman. Bobby Drake was once the comic relief of the original X-Men lineup. Snowballs, ice slides, and jokes kept him from being taken seriously. But as writers leaned deeper into his mutation, it became clear that his power was virtually limitless. Iceman doesn't just create ice, he manipulates temperature at the molecular level. He can freeze oceans, control bodies of water, and even transform himself into living ice. That last ability gives him near immortality. If his body shatters, he can reconstitute from vapor or water nearby. In modern continuity, he has been shown to alter global climates, create massive constructs, and split into multiple ice avatars at once. The true limit to Iceman has never been his mutation, but his creativity and confidence. Writers like Mike Carey and Sina Grace leaned into this, showing Bobby coming to terms with his Omega status and exploring how dangerous he could become. Level 7, Beyond Omega, Franklin Richards. As the son of Reed Richards and Sue Storm of the Fantastic Four, his lineage alone made him special, but his mutation pushed him into uncharted territory. Franklin's ability is reality manipulation, not illusions or minor tweaks, but full-scale restructuring of the universe. He once created an entire pocket universe during Heroes Reborn and has rewritten physical laws on a whim. For decades, he's been described as an Omega-level mutant whose powers rank on a cosmic scale, placing him alongside beings like Galactus in terms of potential impact. In more recent Marvel continuity, his status as a mutant has been complicated. The Krakoa era revealed that his X gene wasn't natural, but the result of self-alteration, leading to him being retconned out of mutant identity for a time. Even with that wrinkle, he remains one of the most powerful characters in Marvel history. His feats go beyond what any classification system can measure. Vulcan. Gabriel Summers, long-lost brother of Cyclops and Havoc, exploded into X-Men lore with powers that demanded immediate attention. His mutation gives him command over nearly every form of energy, absorbing, redirecting, and weaponizing it at will. He's snuffed out other mutants' abilities, unleashed devastating blasts in battle, and even manipulated magical energy sources. Vulcan's rise was as fast as it was destructive. After being discovered alive on Krakoa, his history as a former Shi'ar emperor came rushing back. This was a mutant who once led an interstellar empire and crushed resistance with sheer force. His instability makes him dangerous not only to his enemies but to his own people. At his peak, he has fought entire teams at once and emerged standing, cementing his place among the most fearsome mutants alive. Scarlet Witch. Wanda Maximoff has always been a figure who defies easy labels. Originally introduced as a mutant with hex powers that bent probability, her abilities evolved into something far more formidable: chaos magic, capable of rewriting reality itself. The most infamous moment came in House of M when she uttered 3 words: "No more mutants," and depowered nearly the entire mutant population. That single act reshaped Marvel continuity for years, wiping out 90% of mutants worldwide. Later stories redefined her as a wielder of chaos magic rather than a true mutant, complicating her place in mutant history. Even so, her feats remain some of the most reality-breaking in comics. Wanda has restored lost souls, altered timelines, and battled entities that stand on a cosmic scale. Few characters in Marvel inspire as much fear and reverence as Scarlet Witch, because her powers rewrite the rules of existence. And that's it. Now, to you, out of every mutant across these levels, who do you think you'd actually want to live as? Powers, baggage, and all? Comment down below as you leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more amazing videos like this one.